Galamera, Galamera, Galamera. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And how are we today? Well, I thought I'd start from this angle this morning because the weather today is absolutely glorious. So I can see some people smiling already, seeing that the weather here is absolutely awesome. It's nice and sunny. It's not cold either, just something to say. I know the rest of the country are under feet of snow. Athens has still got problems with power outages and all sorts of stuff. But us here, we had our little bit of snow at the beginning of the week, but now I think that nasty weather has gone on its way. And as we look up over the top towards the area of Sillavi and that location going towards the North Island, lovely clear blue skies over there. And let's have a quick look round the back of the house, looking towards Amber Lockerbie and also Kerry as well. And yeah, it's looking lovely there as well. Not as warm as I am around the other side of the house. That's because the sun makes its way round there during the day. But yeah, you can see just a little bit of smoke there in the distance. People still doing their olives even up until this time at the moment. And obviously preparing their lands for planting, etc. But other than that, it's a beautiful day. So anyway, there you go. That's the weather for today. Now, the chickens this morning have been, well, they've been coming up looking for food. I thought I'll just wait until we're ready to go live and then I'll feed them. But I think they took the hint at the moment and they're just staying away. So that's quite handy, really, because I'll just get on with our news of today. And to be honest, as always, the news has been chopping and changing through the night. I'll got some interesting news for you, and also different stats as well about what's been going on. Big shout out to Ian Booth, who's tuning in from Huddersfield. Jerry Coyle is tuning in as well. Got Emma Coleman there watching. Anyway, let's crack on with what's been going on today. Can you believe that today is Friday? Where has this week gone? Where has it gone? Yeah, it's the 19th of February. It's day 105 in our lockdown. It's the day Jane and I look forward to because it's our day to go to Lidl and do our shopping. Anyway, that's the highlight of the day for us. But anyway, COVID in the last 24 hours, I'm afraid the infection rate is up from yesterday. Yesterday I reported to you 755 cases. Today it is 1,400 new infections were recorded yesterday in Greece. That brings the grand total at the moment to 176,059, of which 52% are male. Now, there's been 10 new cases identified after checks into the country. That's up from 9 yesterday. To 10 now. And according to the national stats yesterday, looking at the islands, infection on the islands, there's been no new cases on Lefkada. There's been 2 new cases on Kefalonia and 5 new cases on Corfu. As for Zakynthos, the national stats say 0. However, our local press is saying that we've had 6 new infections within the last 24 hours, and I'll just go through those with you now. In total, there were 6 new cases of coronavirus on Zakinthos yesterday, Thursday, February the 18th. All the people tested positive and had been suffering from mild symptoms of the virus. Now, according to the information that was given out last night, 4 of them were from a family, a 52-year-old father, a 42-year-old mother, and their 2 children aged 12 and 18. They were all tested positive, and as far as we know, they were sent home to self-isolate. Now, there was also later in the day another incident concerning a 32-year-old man from Zakynthos. He also tested positive, and it's believed that he'd been in contact with somebody else who had had the virus. And then, interestingly, late last night, there was another case which brought the total list up to 6. And that was a 17-year-old schoolgirl who was also in contact with the family that had tested positive earlier in the day. Anyway, that 17-year-old, she came from the same family. She went to the hospital yesterday afternoon suffering from symptoms. And her father and mother and 2 brothers had obviously come out positive. So basically that was the other sister of those, or the daughter of that family. So that was a 17-year-old. So at the moment, though the national stats say 0, locally, we've had 6, so I wouldn't be too surprised those numbers will appear on our tally for tomorrow. Right, once again, just to remind you that just because there's been 1,000 cases throughout Greece, those are for testing positive. That does not mean that they are people who are actually hospitalized or being put into quarantine. They are people who've tested positive. And the thing about the stats is there's not like a follow-up of how many are positive, false positives, etc., etc. So just to put that into context. Anyway, going back to statistics then, just to put this in mind, Zakinthos then has had 83 positive cases since the beginning of the year and 46 cases since the beginning of February. So that's the totals at the moment. Now, when it comes to deaths, there's been 27 new deaths across Greece. That is up from the day before where we had 13, bringing our total death toll since the start of the pandemic to 6,221. The average age of those people passing away has been around 79 years of age. 94% of those had underlying health problems or were over the age of 70 years of age. And to put that into context, the death rate in 2019 for Greece, a daily death rate was normally around about 329 deaths a day. Now, interestingly, this is the 4th day now that the gender of fatalities has not been reported or logged. And I also noticed as well, where I get the stats from, that actual input has been removed. I don't know why, I don't know what's going on, but at the moment, for the last 4 days, there has been no information as to the gender of fatalities. The last time we had any figures was about 4 days ago, and that was 3,574 male and 2,503 female. But other than that, we've not had any further information on that. Now, as I've now started to keep a tally of deaths on the island, as we did have 1 death in February from coronavirus. A 76-year-old man passed away yesterday with, shall we say, complications from corona. He did have other underlying symptoms, and I've now kept a separate record now of deaths here on the island for this year, and so far we've only had 1. Anyway, when it comes to critical cases are up as well across Greece in ICUs. Last time I reported to you, we had 312. And today it's been reported that we have 320 critical cases across Greece. 212 of those are male and 101 of those are female. And again, the average age of critical patients is 68 years of age, and 86% of those have underlying health issues or are over the age of 70. Now, interestingly as well, Attica's regions, ICUs, are still under considerable pressure. Attica, for those people who don't know where that is basically the Athens greater area, like the greater area Manchester or London. It's the area surrounding Athens. They are under pressure at the moment because they have basically 204 beds in that region, and at the moment they have 240 beds in that region, and at the moment 204 of those beds are occupied, and so at the moment 85% of their beds are basically being used. So obviously the Attica area still having quite a high infection rate for those locations, and there's worry about that. And they have actually been sending patients in the past to other locations in Greece if they need more treatment than what they can be provided in their local area, because there's not enough beds available. Anyway, coming back here now to Zakinthos, the chairman of the infections committee of the hospital, Mr. Athanasios Markou, didn't hide his anxiety about the course of the pandemic in Zakinthos, stating that we do not have a good epidemiology picture at the moment, with so many cases since the beginning of the year. The epidemiology picture of Zakinthos is not good, he said, and I would say that this is particularly aggravated if we look at the quantitative criteria, since we have 66 samples in February and another 30 in January. So we reach 100 cases in a month. That's his figures, not mine. And half in a month and a half. The 50 are considered active cases because they cause risks. We have 7 hospitalizations patients, he says, in the COVID clinic and one incubated in the ICU with negative pressure. Mr. Markou said that this data are aggravated, and in addition we monitor some quality characteristics along with the numerical ones, which makes things even more difficult. But he didn't really highlight what those were. Anyway, speaking about cases affecting young ages, he said, we see that there is an increase in the already high transmissibility of the virus and an expansion in the age range of the observed cases. It catches up to children, and there is an extension of the hospitalisation time for these cases that centre at the hospital. So basically what they're saying, that children that go into hospital suffering from COVID, it sometimes takes longer for them to fully recover from the effects of the disease. However, he says, regarding the lockdown on our island, he said, the people who are now hospitalised are 7+1, and it is the largest number that has existed here for coronavirus cases. So those are the people that are in the hospital. 7 are in the ordinary coronavirus clinic. They're under observation, and there's 1 in a special incubated bed as well. So again, that's nice to know how many people are actually in the hospital and how many people are suffering from the effects of the disease. Anyway, for all of this, he said, we are still in the regime of restrictive provisions. 3 weeks is the shortage period of time to draw safe conclusions about what is to come. And he says, in my view, is that the measures should be continued at least until the 28th of March. So we're looking at the lockdown staying till the 28th of March, and even more so until the first week, until the at least until the 28th of February. I do apologise, the 28th of February. But he's also saying then maybe it should continue until the first week of March. So our lockdown, 103 days, and we were looking maybe forward to a lifting of some of the measures, which made getting about a bit easier. But it looks like the hospital here is advising a lockdown to continue until, at least from the looks of it, the 28th of February, if not through to the first week of March. To be honest, we've seen this coming for a long time. We're going to stay locked down. Obviously, Carnival normally would be on the agenda. We can write that off completely. If we're lucky, we may come out of the lockdown as a national thing, maybe by Easter, if we're lucky, if we do get Easter in. Because if you remember last year, we were locked down during Easter and everybody had to spend Easter in their own homes. They weren't allowed to go anywhere. And it was a strange Easter. But to be honest, Jane and I, we quite enjoyed it. Anyway, going back to the doctor then, the months of January, February and half of March are the ones that we have the outbreak of viral infections, he says, like flu, etc. So this is during the period of time we have already expected a picture to be aggravated in these cases with the virus and the coronavirus. So it already, they've said that normally at this time of year, we have a flu problem. We have a flu epidemic of some description. And obviously, the coronavirus is adding to that as well. Also, interestingly, on a global perspective, how many people died of flu this year? And that was put down to coronavirus to kind of keep the hype going about numbers as well. Anyway, going back to infections again, just looking at some of the other areas in Greece at the moment with what's been going on. The infection areas in the North Aegean island of Thassos also continues to increase, with 8 new cases detected today, bringing the total there to 40 cases since February the 7th. Now, today's new cases involve residents from villages of Prinos, Kalarachi, Soritas, and the second largest town on the island, which is Lemania. Anyway, the director of the main health centre on the island, located in Prinos, believes that further measures are needed, as these figures place Thassos as having one of the worst infection rates in Greece when compared to the size of the island's population, which is only 13,770. And when you compare that Zakynthos's population, that I was checking that yesterday, the last figures I had for the population on the island was from about 2006, was 41,472. And we've had technically 83 positive cases by my reckoning since the beginning of the year. So again, even our rate of infection for the amount of the population is relatively high, but we are not the worst by any means across the rest of Greece at the moment. Anyway, the other big thing that's bothering people here on the island, and this is a story from Zakinthos, is the case for vaccination for those people over the age of 60, like myself, and up to 65 in Zakinthos with the AstraZeneca vaccine has turned into an enigma, according to the local press, for those who are trying to make an appointment from last week, because remember, last week you could actually start to book appointments. Anyway, Hermes News reported a few days ago that the issue has long occupied the pharmacists here of the island, who have received pressing questions from the public about when they can make an appointment. And I have seen on some of the social media pages for other sites here on Zakynthos, people asking that question: when can I get an appointment, and when can I get the injection? Anyway, it has been noted that the question from the Pan-Hellenic Pharmaceutical Association, a question has been mooted to the Ministry of Health and the competent Secretary of General of Primary Health about what is expected now is a responsible briefing for such areas such as Zakynthos, where no appointments can even be made. And as we've already said, there's been no vaccine being delivered here in quite, I would say, at least 2 weeks now. We've not received anything new. Now, interestingly, the MP for Zakynthos, he was speaking to Hermes radio yesterday, and he said that the problem does not concern the vaccination centres, but the quantities of the vaccine, which at the moment have not reached not only Zakynthos, but also all other areas of Greece, except for Athens and Thessaloniki, where there are two major vaccination centres. Now, when you think about it, there has been issues about delivery of vaccine because the EU went and got involved, buggered the whole thing up, and the orders that countries had made were basically stopped, of which Greece was one of those. They'd done their own private deal, and the EU then steamrolled in and then basically decided, we're taking control of this, you'll wait until we made the order, and basically messed the whole thing up. Now, the interesting thing is with that is also you've got to look at it as Zakynthos really, in some respects, is a low priority. Even though we're in the red, we're a low priority for the vaccine, and they obviously want to keep Athens and Thessaloniki running as best as it can. And so I would say that most of the vaccines have been sent to that location to try and treat as many people there. Because if you think about the spread of the virus, it has not been spread by people coming in from outside of the country as first feared, but it's been spread between the locals themselves, just basically not following the rules and observing things. So anyway, he then stated that what is needed in Zakynthos, because he never actually answered the question. That's the thing about MPs. They don't ever answer the question. He then sort of sidelined the question to another question, where he said he stated that what is needed in Zakynthos is additional vaccine centres which will operate to meet the needs of the vaccination, while he added that so far the two centres in the hospital are sufficient. Yeah, to a degree he's right. If we haven't got the vaccine, there's no point opening vaccination centres. However, we were supposed to have had 6 vaccination centres across the island, and then that got cut down to 2, one in Katastari and one in the town at the old ICA offices. But at the moment, the hospital has been the location that's been doing the vaccinations at the moment, mainly for medical workers, first-line workers, who've been lucky enough to get it. So therefore, there's not been a requirement for one in the town and one in Katastari because there's been no vaccine. But anyway, as to when the vaccine is going to turn up, that is as good as anything to try and judge. Anyway, so as he then mentioned, he said the vaccinating centres were judged to be better to operate in the city, either inside or near the hospital for greater safety. Another issue that has arisen concerns the vaccination platforms, for which present serious problems in a letter to the Secretary of Primary Health and the Pan-Hellenic Pharmaceutical Association, who say, we inform you that there are reports from many pharmaceutical associations of our country for serious problems in the process of actually closing appointments, actually getting an appointment, all right, on the vaccination platform. That means the online system for doing it, due to the lack of availability of dates. In particular, many fellow pharmacists complain that due to the above problems, citizens belonging to the age group of 75 and above are also not being served, resulting in inconvenience and questioning the reliability of the system. Also, many case appointments are made in vaccination centres that are located very far from places of residence of the interested parties. Anyway, please address them immediately, they've asked, to solve these problems that affects thousands of citizens, but also deprives pharmacists of valuable time who support the whole effort. So basically at the moment, people are saying only having 2 vaccination centres when we do get the vaccine for vaccination to be done. And also I forgot to mention that the vaccine was also being given to the 75 and up age groups as well, who are the most vulnerable. And that there needs to be more than just the 2, especially we have some very, very remote places on this island. And even though as a mileage thing, it might not seem far to go, trust me, when you live on an island which is small, small distances can actually be an obstacle because there's no public transport. There's no easy way to get there. You rely on family, you rely on a friend to be able to get you to an appointment. And we've also had closure of health centres over the last few years where you would have expected vaccinations to be given from local health centres in remote areas on the island. Those have actually gone. And so again, just to have one in Katastari and one down in the town, there's a lot of old people here who probably haven't got the support that would be, that you would see in the norm with the rest of Greek society. And they're obviously feeling that those people may not be served. All right. So again, it's an interesting story. We'll keep an eye on that. As soon as we hear anything more about vaccine arrival or about vaccinations to be given here on the island, I will let you know as soon as possible. And just to put you in the picture, I'm in no rush to have the vaccination at the moment. I'm quite happy to sit back and wait and see if herd immunity will take place. Oh, and just another little thing that came out yesterday. This no jab, no job is illegal. All right. For all those people in the UK, be seeing all the headlines, this all I'll say, dickhead of a business person, a builder, who says no one's working for me unless they've had the jab. Let's see that in court, mate. All right. Let's see how that happens. This is your choice, your body. You want to put the injection into you? That's your choice. All right. You should not be kowtowed into having it. Ryanair did the same thing with their no jab, no holiday. All right. It's illegal. You can't do that. And for all of human rights, this is where the human rights legislation will kick in. All right. For all those people going on about human rights, my right, my body to have an injection. I should not be blackmailed into having it. And I should not be put in a position where if I don't have it, I can't work. If I work with the old and the vulnerable, again, my choice. But it should not be enforced upon people to have it. So that'll be a little case that we will see how that plays out in the British courts as well. Anyway, as you know, the schools have been closed for 2 days here in Zakinthos due to the extreme weather conditions. And students then started returning to their desks in the primary and secondary education areas. The lyceums at the moment, they're like the upper sixth, is the best way to describe those. They're still operating on restrictive measures where people are basically online teaching. Anyway, at the moment, reports coming from the schools at the moment when they reopened yesterday was that they didn't face any major serious problems. The primary education of the 4th and the 6th primary schools, they remain closed, while the 2nd primary school operated normally. The head of primary education, Mr. Evangelos Elagoulis, said attendance at some of the schools was satisfactory, while at schools associated with the COVID cases, those are the schools that have been closed temporarily because they've had COVID infections from their actual pupils there, they have not been as satisfactory. Parents, they say, are affected when they hear about the school-related cases, and he says, and the misinformation, he says, holds up well. All right. People not taking their kids back to school because they think their kids are going to catch it. He says all the schools that are still closed, all the measures have been taken, and even precautionary measures have been taken as well. He further stressed that the Parents Association has expressed its opinion on the schools, whether they should be closed due to cases of COVID, while noting that the picture is better at this stage since the closure for 2 days has kind of reassured parents, not patients. Anyway, as for secondary education is concerned, things are much better, he said, since only one class of the first gymnasium has been closed, and also the third gymnasium, one class was closed there. And they're going to remain closed at the time being. But the attendance of students in those schools actually was good, and things are going well, and it is improving daily. However, the picture presented by the Lithia High School said is worrying, as both the principal of the school, Mr. Pothos, and the Association of Parents and Guardians are talking about big problems within the infrastructure of the school rather than COVID infections. In a meeting, he said, we had with parents, they reported the problems to do with the toilets, and said that the Parents Association, the principal of the school, not happy with the numbers of toilets there are. They want more toilets to be built. There's only 4 toilets for all of the children in the school, which has always been an issue here in Greece, ever since I first came on the island, about the infrastructure within the schools, about how poor they can be. Anyway, Mr. Pothos stressed that photos have been put up online, and they've also been sent to the school committees to say about repairs. He also said that the school boiler also needs to be repaired as well. And he said to the Amira newspaper that he's booked an appointment next week with the mayor of Zakinthos to make these issues known, so that there can be immediate intervention, which will better serve the students. So there you go. That is the story here for the education at the moment here in the schools. Anyway, just going back to Athens at the moment, I did say at the beginning of the news that there's some 8,000 to 10,000 households in northern Athens and the regional area of Attica who remained without power up until noon yesterday. Many of them have had no power since Monday night because of the because of the snow. And also they've had no running water because obviously electricity is needed to run the pumps, and there's been no pumps running. So those areas had a bit of a tough time with no water, no heat, no light. And obviously it made life difficult for them. I'm not sure how they are at the moment, whether all that power is back on and whether they're all back to normal. But looking at yesterday's mainstream media news for Greece, the snow was still the big story at the moment here in Greece. And finally, I've got 2 unfinalies for you. First is this one, the return of the Elgin Marbles. Do you think Greece should get the Elgin Marbles back? Because according to the former British Museum trustee, Sir Anthony Gormley, who's also a sculptor, his most famous work is the Angel of the North that sits outside Newcastle as you drive in up into Newcastle. He actually was talking to the press and said that they were uninspiring, and he said, I would be happy to return them back to Greece. Now, he also said that in the British Museum, in the basement, there is lots of artifacts which are of African origin, all right, that sit in the museum's basement with a post-colonial iniquity. And he said, I would rather see those on display than the marbles, and I'd rather see those sent back. Now, the marbles have always been a bone of contention. Greece has always said the marbles were looted from Greece, but according to Lord Elgin at the time in 1759, when he took the actual marbles, he was British ambassador to the Ottoman Empire at the time. And he'd actually done a deal with the Ottomans because the marbles were actually on the Acropolis, as you know. But the Acropolis at the time was a fort. being used by the Ottoman army and the Ottoman forces. And he saw them being used for things like target practice and stuff like that and thought, oh, we better get those away from there. And so he asked for permission to have them removed, which he did. They obviously didn't want them. Plus, as well, his agents also removed other architectural things from sculptures from Polonia and Erectimus as well around Greece, and has had the UK has had them since. So that's a question. Would you like to see the marbles returned back to Greece or not? To be honest, I don't really have an opinion on it, actually, at the moment. It's not some pressing thing in my world at the moment for them to be returned or not. It's just interesting to see what other people's thoughts on that might be. And also, finally, a little bit of very sketchy news, all right, reference the turtles. It seems the Arcana is going to have their annual event, which they'd have a meeting for this, but they're going to do this all online this year, where they're going to do a presentation about the turtle year of 2020, how the turtles get on. This is going to be a Zoom conference. However, it's a Zoom conference with a difference. One of them is that you can hear it, you can see it, but you obviously can only answer questions that you submit in writing to be given out actually at the meeting. So it's not like you can jump in and make a point, etc. during it. And the other thing is they've given no date, no time when it is going to happen. So if anybody wants to formulate a letter to the Arcana, there's not even any contact, but I think you probably get them on their web page at the moment. But they are in line to give some form of conference online for this year. And just one thing to bear in mind, and some people may not be aware of this, but the Arcana has a great responsibility, because the Arcana every year, after it does its season of protecting the turtles and also protecting the monk seal, we have monk seals here, but we don't see those because they're way off the coast of Zakinthos, and they don't ever come very close to the island itself. But the Arcana still has a responsibility for their protection within the National Marine Park. And also there are some rare plant life as well that the Arcana is also protects as well. So it's not just all turtles, rare orchids, sea orchids that are very close to the shoreline here in Zakinthos, and you can sometimes see those in the summer. But they write a report for the EU on the way things are happening, way things are running within the National Marine Park. And it's through their writing of their report every year that actually fixes the budget that the National Marine Park actually will receive from the EU in the way of payment that comes from the EU towards the work that's being done in there. So they have a very important role here, and they've also been the people that have been pinnacle in eking out corruption that had been going on as well. I'm not going to go deep into that, but they also had been very busy with corruption that had been going on as well within the National Marine Park as well. So again, a very important role that they have. And if I get any more further information about what they actually do and when the dates are for their actual conference online, I'll let you know. Right, let's have a look and see who's tuning in this morning. Emma Coleman is watching. Nice to see you. Jerry Coyle is watching as well. Andy Spence is watching as well. How you doing, mate? Oh, you're on your lorry somewhere driving away. Andrew the Fridge Watkins is watching. I think I've seen your weather forecast down the bottom there somewhere. Charles Ballantyne is watching as well. Old Chick Ballantyne. Anthony Westlake is watching. Jan Lawrence is watching as well. Lovely to have you tuning in, Jan. Lyndon Erickson is watching in. I'll give you a wave as well. Chris Baxter says, morning from a wet Sutton in Ashfield. Oh, bless you. Well, it's not wet here, mate. It's nice and dry for once, and the sun is shining and it is warm, all right? Ian Booth has said, Sue and I have had our jabs. Well done for you for having your jabs. It just means I don't need to get a jab because of the herd immunity. I'm holding out for the herd immunity. But let us know how... Oh, that's another point, actually. You've actually raised a good point. There was a lot of people on some of the local Zakynthian social media sites after I put the story out about the doctor in Corfu 2 doctors and a nurse in Corfu have been suffering side effects from the jab. That's been raising a lot of interest as well here on the island as to how safe it is. And I've got to be honest, I think the AstraZeneca sounds to be the safest of all of them. And also when you look at the makeup of some of these jabs, where it's genetic material, that all it's looking for is the genetic material in your blood. This is when I'm talking about testing now, looking for the genetic material in your blood where you've probably had it, not realised you've had it, and now it's in your system. And again, it's creating a kind of immunity anyway, because you didn't feel any of the effects. But anyway, that case of the doctors in Corfu is ongoing at the moment, and I'm still looking to see what the fallout is going to be. And a lot of people have been taking notice about that story as well. But the main thing about that story was that when somebody questioned the safety of the actual jab, it went straight to the prosecutor of Greece as to whether a crime had been committed just by saying that somebody was saying that somebody had suffered from side effects. And that to me is not the way that you get confidence in people, is by basically saying you're going to basically arrest somebody for spreading fake news because you happen to report that 2 people had side effects from the vaccine. And even though we haven't done masses of vaccinations in the same realms as maybe the UK, you're bound to get people that are going to have side effects. It's human nature that you are going to get side effects. But the interesting thing about these side effects were it was all in one area. In Corfu, 2 doctors and a nurse. Was it a faulty batch? Who knows? But don't start saying we're going to do the person for saying it, for spreading fake news, and we're going to arrest you, because that to me smacks of a police state. We should be able to present the facts and let people take responsibility for their decisions, whether they have the injection or not. Anyway, thanks for that, Boothie. Nice to know that you've took the jab and it's going to work for you. And I do know that you are a vulnerable person anyway. So again, you know, well done for doing it. Karen Bush is watching as well. Lovely to see you tuning in, Karen. Matthew Long is tuning in as well. George from the Obelix restaurant, you're also tuning in as well, fella. Nice to see you here. I can't wait till the restaurants are open again. I really can't. I'm looking forward to a meal out. That is for sure. Amanda Gregory is tuning in. I've got a feeling Amanda Gregory's weather forecast is here. Oh, look into this weather forecast. Morning, Ginge. Lovely sunshine today with some some cloud cover. Temperature high, 15 degrees. Will feel like 20 degrees, and have a fab day. Thank you for that. I always wonder when they say this, it's going to be 15, but it feels like this. How do they know that? That's what I've always wondered. All the years I've read news out on the radio, weather forecasts and that, and this feels like this, but it's like that. It just makes me, it tickles me. It really does. But if it feels like 20, that's what I want to feel. I want to feel warm. Another RAF Reg buddy, Dean Oliver, is tuning in. Nice to see you. Marty the Mod Holsworth is tuning in as well. Lovely to see you, Marty. You've just reminded me, yesterday evening I put my Northern Soul show up from last week, show number 3. You can go online, watch that show. Show number 4 goes out on Sunday night on beachradio.co.uk. I've already made that show. That show has now been made and is now sat with Beach Radio in the UK, ready to be broadcast on Sunday night from 5 o'clock until 7 o'clock UK time. That's 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock Greek time. I will be in the chat room lurking, all right, on Beach Radio, taking any requests for the next show after that. That show's been very, very popular on Beach Radio. It gets repeated on Monday. I know there's a lot of van drivers and people, because the great thing about Beach Radio, you can listen to it when you're driving about. In your car, they have a special app that they use. So it's not just people on their tablet or on their phone or on their computer that can listen to it. You can listen to it while you're driving around doing your job or whatever like that. So I think that's fantastic. But anyway, that show, the last show, show number 3, is up online for you to listen to and get a flavour of what I'm doing with the Soul Cream van, as I call it, all right, going from coast to coast, playing the best of Northern Soul and a bit of Northern Soul history and some fantastic cracking tunes. And also, if you've got any tunes that you want to hear in that show, just let me know and I'll stick them in. Anyway, John Cuthbert is watching as well. Nice to see you. Andrew the Fridge Watkins says it's bucketing down in Wales and it's windy. Claire Thompson is watching. Nice to see you, Claire. Christine Brown is watching as well. Lindsay Lamb is watching. Melanie Hellberg, all the way from Sweden, is watching as well. I bet you've still got snow there, but I bet your country hasn't ground to a halt because of it. I bet you're still chugging and burning and doing everything you should do. Gav Kitchen, another Raffridge buddy, is watching. Noel Hester is watching as well. Neil Facer is watching. And Steve Hinkling says, good morning. Big, loud. I like your emoji, mate. I do like these personalised emojis that look like you. It looks stunningly like you, mate. There you go. Shane Bowen is watching as well. Maria Hadelberg says, good morning. Crazy ice everywhere here. Nearly made involuntary splits outside this morning. I love the way she's written that. Have a lovely day today and take care. Thank you for that. All the way from Sweden, who still did the best thing. You still did the best thing in regards to the virus. Shane Bowen is looking in. He says, good morning, Ginge, from a very wet and windy Exmoor. Oh, it feels cold just reading that. Have a great day, and I look forward to your show later on today. Yeah, don't forget today between 5 and 7 o'clock my time, which is 3 o'clock your time till 5 o'clock. Got my requests and inspiration show. I've had a couple of requests already. Put them down in the comments below. Any requests for today's show, it comes live from here, so you can come and get involved, come and chat to me, ask for a record as the show's going on. And that show's been really successful. The last one got to number 76 in the reggae chart and has done quite well in the pop chart as well. So again, come and join me at 3 o'clock your time in the UK for that show. Anyway, Suze Waldron's watching in. Jane Farah is watching in as well. Tim Crystal over there in sunny Oxford is tuning in as well. Paul Boothie up there in Poros. No, that's not Paul. That's somebody else. Paul Boothie's watching as well. Nice to see you, Paul. Also as well, Jane Ferrant says, hi, Ginge. Jerry Coral says, wet and breezy in Mansfield, 5 degrees as well. Brr, that is cold. Mandy Morris says, I'm like you, Ginge, not in a rush to have it. Good for you. I'm not in a rush to have it. There's so many of these vaccines that are being produced at the moment. They're all being rushed through the system to get them certification. All you know is this. The pharmaceutical companies are going to make absolute fortune, billions. And I've also got to say that some of these vaccines have been around a long time, all right, as well. And I think that's not been highlighted as well. So some of them have had good, proper, shall we say, testing. And I think the Oxford Zanac is the one that's had the good, proper testing. But some of them, they're all a bit quick to join the party, if you know what I mean. And the EU is under such pressure. They're under such pressure that with the cock-up that was involved with the EU, that they're kind of pushing them through to try and placate the membership of the club getting broiled, that they may decide that, you know what, we probably want to leave the EU as well over what's been going on, because the EU has had a very poor showing as to their handling of the whole crisis. And I've just had a message. I had the AstraZeneca. I think that could be I'll find out who that is as I scroll down. That could be Mandy Morris who said that, actually. Anyway, Jerry Coyle says, all right, Chris B. Rosewood is watching. John Clifford says, I've been vaccinated 2 weeks ago. I did have a side effect of not being able to drink ouzo. I don't believe that for a moment, John. You have no problems drinking that at all. Chris Baxter says, morning, mate. Chris O'Gorman is watching. Debbie Walthenholme is also watching. Andy Orchard is watching as well. Frontline worker. Nice to see you checking out as well. He's an ambulance driver, by the way, in London. So I don't know if he's been very busy moving people around or not, because the infection rate supposedly is starting to drop in the UK at the moment as well. Anyway, Gary Eden is watching. John replied, I've been vaccinated 2 weeks ago. All right then, mate. It's John Clifford who had the AstraZeneca. So there you go. You've heard it from John Clifford. Have the AstraZeneca. You might not be able to drink ouzo very easily afterwards, but who drinks ouzo anyway? I think you're about one of the only people I know who drinks it, mate. Anyway, James Buchanan is watching as well. Right, I'm going to have to leave it there. I don't want to rattle on. Once again, don't forget, join me this afternoon, 5 o'clock your time till 7 o'clock, my Request and Inspiration show. 3 o'clock your time, 5 o'clock my time, Request and Inspiration show. If you want anything, I always like it because Jane always gives me a lockdown record to play as well. I'm not sure what today's lockdown record will be, but I'll find out what it will be, and I will see you then. You take care. Have a good day. Stay safe. Oh, and Shane Bowen says, I love ouzo. Thank you for that, Shane. I'm going to leave it there. You take care. I'll keep my ear to the ground. If I hear anything, I'll let you know. Ta-ra.